you get the cases from?
Yes. Very good question. For each jurisdiction, it's a different challenge.
Yes, I can imagine.
I was wondering about the
And
same
are they-
literature.
Yeah. So publicized, if they are not publicized for.
Yes, so we try to work with open, actually, this is what we have in mind. When we think about cases, the first thing that comes to mind is that, oh, it's going to be so hard. But when you come to, if you know the specialists who work with these cases, and what I have seen in the past year, so when we started this 7 years ago, the situation was much different. And I see that now there is a trend to publicize the data and to have more open platforms. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, because you need to be fluent in the language, you need to know where to access, how to access, etc. But what I have seen is that we have this bias that it would be too complicated. It's still difficult, but most of the cases are available. And when it's not available, the compromise that we have created is the following. I can try to show you an example. Let's see this one here. Oh, this is a good example, actually. So it's from Bahrain. Let me see if I can make it larger. Yes. It's from Bahrain. I don't have access to the original decision. It would be harsh, okay? But the specialist from this jurisdiction reached out to us and we studied the data. Actually, Dominique was in charge of this case. We had an overall analysis and we made sure that we could fit into the case analyzer structure that we implemented. And so we don't offer access to the source, but we offer the basic things you need to know. Usually, so as a researcher, what I want to understand a bit better is, okay, what this case is about. And from a choice of law perspective, I want to know the issue. So here we have, under which circumstances do Bahrainian courts accept a choice of foreign law? So I already know whether this case is useful or not, whether I should spend more time trying to find the source. So this is a good example of what we want to do, even if this decision has copyrights that we cannot display in the data. So that's the compromise that I have found.
Just one thing. We have to understand that as a second part of the project. In the first part of the project, that was like 4 years ago, we have to publish a book with about 70 reports, about 70 jurisdictions. And in these jurisdictions, because of that, we have contact with set of experts. And this expert, or not only the expert, some of the decisions that we have are the decisions that they use in order to write these reports. The problem, as what Agatha was saying, is that unfortunately, some decisions, you have to pay in order to obtain these decisions. But because of that, our database have not all the decisions, but we have a lot. And we contact these people in order to send us later more decisions. And this is our so it start the database. This is the first thing. And the second thing is this is something that is live. What I mean is that right now we have this database, but we have contact with this expert and send us, and then we put this information.
Ideally, people would click here, submit new data, and you have this PDF, you put this PDF here, and Rolik will
I will find that.
Yes, but that's how we would get new cases. And then we have a moderator to show you how it looks from the inside. My moderation platform, I come here and I have the decisions that I can accept. So I come here. Yesterday I was working on this case. And let's imagine that you have no idea what is relevant for the Dataverse or not. But you have someone who does the peer review, and I will be the one judging whether this is fine or not. I'm saying that it would be me, but it could be anyone in this position to assess whether this would be included in the database or not. So that's what we do. You had a question.
Yeah, well, now that I have this information, what is the interest of how do you get the people to submit information? Because
Very good question. So this is what we are starting today. And I showed Daniel that I was really happy that this morning we had about 40 people online, and so many, so in this small world of international law, and so many practitioners and professors, they were curious, very curious, And they have opinions, of course. And if you have opinions, then you want to contribute and you want to discuss this further. Whether this is sustainable, that's another thing, which Rorik will talk to you later about what is our strategy specifically for Latin America, how we want to make this, like into a continuous work. Because otherwise, and then that this would be a pity. It was a lot of work to put all of this together in terms of infrastructure, right? And we want this to not only be an X-ray of what we have now, we want this to move forward, and we want this to continue being a useful resource for the community. And we will see. I guess that we have to raise awareness in a way that it goes both ways, that people have to volunteer data, and as much data you have, the better the result for your research or your whatever goal you have with the data, then you would see the benefit. And we have to start from somewhere. So what we have now in total, if I consider all the data points, then yeah, I'm so happy that I have to share this with you. Because yes, we have to present many reports to SNF. It's a very bureaucratic and complicated process. And it's not only financial, it's the scientific, it's the data management, and I have to back up everything that we did. So I started doing all, and it feels good to, like say, yes, that's the final version, good for now, at least this is what we'll be submitting to SNF. The thing is, I have realized everything that you see here in terms of interface, so it looks nice. So we were talking about the design, the colors, how you portray the information. But in practice, this is 17 Excel spreadsheets that are interconnected in terms of data. So I went to my backend or the database itself. I could quickly show you what it is. If I come here, and we tested so many versions of this is also complicated to get to this place we are today. So here you can see our tables. It starts on a broader level, right? Jurisdictions, we have 100, more than 100 jurisdictions with data. Then we have questions, and we have answers for the analytical framework that we want to connect. And all of this, so the answers, they need to have sources, right? So then it's where we connect court decisions, domestic instruments, legal provisions, other instruments, literature, even arbitral rules if necessary. So all of this, each part of this database is somehow intertwined, and then we make the magic happen in the website to show everything as if it were just one thing. And yeah, it was not easy, but I'm very glad to be able to export all of that and say, this is the state of art, and this is going to be published in a public repository as well. This would be enough already for SNF purposes. So what SNF wants nowadays from researchers is that you do your research in whatever way you do, hopefully in an organized manner. You export your data and you publish your data in an open access repository. And this is enough. So if you take this in any format and you publish this elsewhere, then this would be fine. But I know if I were to tell you, and this is how we ended the first project. So when I was hired, or was even the test that Daniel posed when I was interviewed, he said, yes, we have a book. And Rorik just said, yes, we have the reports with the case citations in the footnotes, right? As we all know how it is. And the cases, the citations might be, tricky. Sometimes it's correct, sometimes you have to do some follow-up and correct them, yes. But let's assume that all was fine in these citations. You still don't have the files. Or if you are the researcher, you have to do an extra, you have to go the extra lengths to find those sources. And then you said, yes, we have the reports, good. But what if we want to present this data? What if we want to make it open to everyone? And Daniel had no idea how to do this, actually. He had the feeling, he had like a notion, a nice dream in a way. He had some examples, so this is not the first platform per se. So it's the first first one for choice of law and private international law. But as you might know, in arbitration or CISG matters, we have clause or we have other things, unilex or Indra principles, right? So Daniel had some inspiration. Then I had many opinions about the existing platforms, and I said, we will do much better. And I'm not going to, when we finished the first project, we had the data, we conducted data collection, we structured the data, and then in another software, we had these spreadsheets like this, more or less. Do you think that Daniel accessed this once? If you open that twice, I would be very surprised because
There
this,
is a question.
yes.
Just
Yeah.
who designed the data bank? Who designed the relational data bank?
Together with the interdisciplinary team, right, with the Lumans, but it's not easy. Yes, and I know, and there are still many problems, to be quite frank, where every day I find something that could be a bit better, or, that could be enhanced, and this is the problem, because this is a non-ending work, you could go forever and ever, especially if you're not a specialist, so I'm not going to say that I made mistakes, but like I'm a lawyer and I was an amateur when I started all this. And when you start a database, you have to establish some rules. And then you keep doing things, and one day you realize, oh my, I could have done something a bit smarter, and I didn't do that. And how do I change that now? Like it's a bit too late because how do I? So I still find those problems, unfortunately, but we adapt and we make it work. The thing is, when we finished the first project, I had the spreadsheets like this, not very user friendly. If I told the practitioners or professors or even students to say, yeah, please, here's a login, enter and use or access, like, oh, you want to see cases? Come here. And here I have like a very long list. It even takes a while to, yeah, and it's here. It's already very nice because I it's hidden 36 fields. You see, but like people don't really want to see things like that. They want to be able to browse and to explore and to engage with the data. So this was my goal, and this is what we will keep pushing for. So here, what I like the most as a researcher. Actually, there are two things that I like a lot. So this one and this one here. I like to be able to compare the data. I not only I want to analyze or understand like this, like, okay, whether there is a classification on choice of law for Brazil, but I want to see what other countries are doing, and what is the compatibility. Of course, there are some caveats, etc. It's not perfect. But I want to be able to have empirical data and to do something more. And specifically with the transnational standards, so we have, and Daniel is the father of this instrument, we have this whole legal framework that not so many people know. So I wonder, when Daniel had this in mind, I wonder whether he thought, I'm not sure if you wanted to promote the Hague Principles specifically, if it was about promoting the transnational standard. I took this part of the endeavor. So it wouldn't be a platform about the ACCH principles on choice of law specifically. It would be about the data and how there is the correlation between the transnational standard and the domestic legal frameworks. And now I can do this as a researcher. I can come here and I can see whether Angola adopts. So this is what surprised me the most, is because sometimes we think, oh, only if there is a legal transplantation of the Hague Principles, a system would be compatible with the transnational standard. But sometimes we have situations like this. I put Angola and I see that it's a 71% match. Like the Angolan system is already very much streamlined with the principles that Daniel drafted. So this is nice.
But just a side remark,
Yes.
Angola is a
Yes.
Portuguese-speaking country,
Yes.
which is neighboring Mozambique, right?
Yes. Yes.
And those who drafted the new legislation, which is modeled after the Hague Principles
Yes.
in Mozambique, were pretty much the same as those who modeled the new legislation.
It's biased.
So that's-
Yes. Very good
Deep
example, yes.
history of comparative law.
Yes.
technology.
Yes, but sometimes I'm surprised because the questions that we ask are more methodological or general. It's like an umbrella. And sometimes it's not about the legal provision per se, but the practice in that country. And there are interesting correlations and to see how the ideas travel around the world too, in different ways. And sometimes you think you have like a bias for one jurisdiction. Oh, the UK or Australia, and you think, oh, Australia should be compatible, right? And then you try and you see, not that much. So this is the interesting thing. I wanted tools to be able to use the data, and to understand like I wanted to be practical with the things that we have here. One thing that I would like to say to conclude all this tutorial of sorts is that when we started, so we had the book, we had data, then we had the Excel spreadsheets, great. Nobody would use that. Or as a researcher, the researchers really like the data, yes, they would use it, fine. But we only had, when I originally structured the information from the book, we only had 3,000 data points. And data points here, it's everything that you just saw. So it's a bit of, all the parts of this, like it's a court decision, it's a legal provision. Okay, so we have 3,000 in total, and now we have 17,000. It's a lot, and I still think it's like we can do better. Or the idea of the Dataverse is that we would keep expanding the data sets and adding more things. But once again, we need people to do that. Not only researchers like Rorik and I and Eve, but also, like we need more hands and more engagement. So here is the question to you, or I pose to the University of Lucerne as well. We want to keep this project in-house and we want to make this useful to people. We don't want this to die in retirement, like we want this to be alive. And how do we create this awareness for open science, I here in front of you, you have an engagement report, like the last 3 months of the website. I'm going to share here the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation. So this I already explained. I think that I could quickly just say, so for the database specifically, so Daniel had an idea. I tried to do the best that I could for the end of the first project. It was not enough. I was not satisfied. I said to Daniel, by that time, he already gave me carte blanche. Said, Agatha, you do whatever you like. It's yours. Like if you want to pursue this, if you are not satisfied, you carry on. And I said, yes, I see the potential. Actually, when we submitted the SNS application. At the time, I'm going to wrap up, yes. When I submitted the first application or the second application, I had the learnings from the first project, right? And I felt like, okay, we are doing this because it would be a nice conclusion of everything. It would be complicated to stop in the middle. And I had no expectations that SNF would actually sponsor this, And Daniel, he's a very positive person, or the visual thinker here. And he was like, no, I think it's going to work. And Gabi, of course, Gabi is the mastermind behind it. I was like, yeah, no, certainly it's a digital product, but the timing works because now is the era for technological tools, and then AI came along, and yes. So 2023, we had the approval, and I started doing versions or pre-versions of what we have today. So it's very easy to present the website as a conclusion of, no, we had so many. Daniel had to be very patient because we presented so many versions of a website or a concept. Then in 2024, in Johannesburg with our partners, I presented the first May with the unofficial launch. I said, oh, here it is. Now people can use. This is no longer closed indoors. No, this is for the public. Was what I call MVP, minimum viable product. And then for this website that you see now, we had 6 official versions. 6 was a lot of work. And many optimization rounds, which I hope that yesterday was the final day for me with this little details. So GitHub is the development or the coding platform. We had more, as of Sunday, we had more than 800 deployments. It means versions of the website. This is all open. So for example, if you have an assistant who knows how to code, they could open GitHub and adapt things that we have done, like it's all available to the public. I had this interdisciplinary team with many high expectations on how to do things. And they wanted to apply what they call an agile technique. It's a framework for developers. And everything was very structured, many meetings, many tasks, and we had almost 800 tasks. It was a lot, many discussions, believe me. We had many issues to solve because you try to build something, you have problems, etc. And in all the brainstorming that we had in terms of how to use the data, we managed to implement 43 features. So it's hidden in the website. Or, of course, for example, I showed you the country comparison or the comparison with the ACCH principles. This is a feature just to explain what I mean by the word. Yes, we did many things. So we had critical things that we wanted to do, and many things that we still could be doing. So that's the thing. The project ends officially from an SNS perspective, but we could continue and carry on. It's much more than just the platform. So it's about the data in the first place, the quality of the data. It's about the publications. So we had more than 4 publications. It's about communicating this to the public, not easy at all, or I don't like this, thanks God I have Anya to help me, or, because I like to talk, but the social media part, it's very hard nowadays. To do user research, to try to connect the community and the needs, and all the management side of things, so HR, finance, all this hidden efforts that we need to consider. And in your desk, you have, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a moment, if I can. In your desk, you have the engagement report. So Daniel, perhaps you could read it quickly for the people who are listening in. So in the past 3 months,
We had 2,400 total visits across 91 days from 112 countries. Do you want more?
yes, no, it's just like the countries, of course, Switzerland is biased. Here we have organic search, which means that people are searching on Google and finding us. I'm glad that we have already so many visitors. Whether these visits are meaningful, I'm not sure, but they spend 5 minutes in the platform. It's already something. It's more than the attention span nowadays. And the case analyzer, as you can see, so now we are going to hear Rorik speaking about the case analyzer. The case analyzer is our major feature. Yes. Any doubts that I could clarify before we move on to the case analyzer?
Maybe to clarify about the system of regarding the question of bios, how do we get to these cases?
Yes.
The first project's most difficult work was to engage a network of correspondents worldwide, because we wanted to be not a European project, which is easy because there you have everything next door and with the people, but we wanted to be global. So we needed to have people who know other people, and that was easy with regard to private international law, because this is a narrow expert group. So we had Jose Moreno, for example, in Latin America, who knows everyone in Latin America. We had Jan Nails in South Africa, who knows everyone in Africa and India. We had Yuko Nishitani in Japan, who knows a lot of the Far Eastern private international law expert people. So that's how we engaged a lot of people who had a genuine interest in participating without being paid, because they were academics, most of them. Some of them, both academics and practitioners. And that was how we got the cases. And of course, if someone engages and finds 5 cases, he is easier to be interested in the other correspondence findings. That's how we developed this network. And that's why I really supported Agatha in the next stage of the proceedings, because I thought it's a waste to have all these correspondence and not having them engaged, not even having the cases in PDF form. How can we do that? And she said, we have to have a second SNF project. I didn't believe in it, but I let her in, and she was something.
Any questions before we move to the AI part and the researcher in the panel?
The data base in the original language plus English translation.
For court decisions, yes. So either we have the link or the file in that original language. And then specifically if we use the AI tool, everything, the results will be in English.
Okay,
And
so
then,
a machine translation.
yes.
Yeah.
And for the other data points, we already tried to systematize or to include in our overviews the English abbreviation or the English. So all the analytical part is in English. So even if the source data is in Spanish or Portuguese, but we try to make sure that we have this lingua franca that anyone from anywhere in the world, so I don't speak Japanese, but I want to learn more about Japan and include potentially. And now the interesting thing related to AI that we see is that ChatGPT is actually cannibalizing our platform. If we check these reports in detail, we see that some of the sources come, or the referrals come from ChatGPT. So then it poses another legal question in a way. We produce data for free, thanks to reliable data, I would like to say. But a company is earning money or trying to reproduce things on top of that, of open source information. This would be another SNF project, to discuss the implications of it. But yes,